As it is every single week, today's episode of Lee Summit Town Hall is brought to the people of Lee Summit by Budget Blinds of Lee Summit.
Budget Blinds!
Jason, we've talked about this before. I'm going to say it again. Automation. It's the wave of the future.
All hail our robot shade overlords.
You know, and not only is it cool, automation cool, it might make even you cool, Jason.
No, nothing can make either of us cool. It can be cool stuff we do, but we will not be cool.
But it's also the safer choice for your children, for your pets. And here's a little tidbit. October coming up in just a few weeks, 4 or 6 weeks. It is Window Covering Safety Month.
There we go.
So it's time to think about being safe.
Automate your shades. Get rid of those darn strings. Make your life a little bit easier, a little bit safer, and a little bit more secure.
So if you need some new window coverings for your house, head on out to Budget Blinds of Lee Summit right in the heart of downtown. Tell them Jason and Nick sent you. Jason, it took a year off, but it's back. Chili Fest is back.
Oh, Chili Fest. I'm so excited. I am literally excited about this. Tell me a little bit about Chili Fest.
Well, first of all, the Link to Lee Summit team, we're taking home some hardware.
We are, and we're going to win.
This is an awesome community event and competition, and the other thing that we love is it is benefiting some good people in town. It's benefiting Coldwater of Lee Summit. So if you love to eat chili, you love to make chili, you love to eat salsa or make salsa, eat wings or make wings, this is the fest for you.
Not only you can come, bring a team. It's a great team building event for your company or your organization. You can cook in 2 different styles of chili, salsa and wings, or if you're more the eating type. And honestly, looking at the both of us, Nick, we are definitely included in the eating type, but we're going to do a little cooking. You can come, you can buy yourself a spoon, you can go around all the booths, sample all the good stuff that they're putting out for the competitions, and have an awesome opportunity. If you want more information, where can we go?
It's real simple. Get on that computer device, that big box in your pocket, your phone. Head to bridgespace.us/chilifest for more information. Help out some people in town and eat some good food.
We're teenagers, and it's a really interesting time right now because we're, for once, getting kind of our voices out there. We're doing walkouts, we're on social media, we're doing all these incredible things, and I think it's important to actually hear us talking, having conversations with each other, and just hearing what we kind of have to say, because in a few years, we're adults. We're going to be voting. We're going to be out in the world, and we'll be the ones leading the way eventually. Hi, welcome to I Can Relate. My name's Olivia. We got Hudson, Rylee,
Hey y'all,
and Malorie with us today.
Hello.
All right, today we're going to talk about mental health, the stigmas around it, just in general in our lives, kind of how it is present constantly.
Yes.
So, why don't we start off like Hudson and then
Okay.
Rylee, Malorie, and me. Let's talk like personally how mental health, like what's happened in our lives.
Ooh. Middle of the school year, like I'd gotten to in a lot of after school activities, so I'd be getting home at 6, 7 every night, volleyball, musical, and then I would do homework, and then I'd go to sleep, and I'd repeat the cycle every single day. So like at the end of every day, my mental level was very drained. So I'm gonna say try to like limit your after school activities, because like I was super drained, and my mental stability was very low.
Being in a constant routine is tough.
Yes.
Yeah, like doing
yeah.
the same thing over and over
Yeah.
every day just
School.
gets like it's just, it makes you feel not good.
It's overwhelming.
It's overwhelming.
To know that nothing's
Yes.
going to change.
Right.
That's why it's always so nice to have that fresh start of a new year.
Summer.
Yeah, summer, because then you
Summer,
don't
you're
have
never on a
like,
schedule. You go to bed at 1 a.m., wake up at 6 sometimes. Who knows?
yeah.
It's the best.
Yeah.
I feel like this goes back to our day in a life conversation because that was one of the big topics we kind of like hit in our little day in a life bingo card is after school activities because what you do in your free time and after school and before school really does affect your mental health because that goes into sleep too. I feel like because when we don't have sleep and we're drained, like I had, I feel like my brain every time I went from school was like mush, and then I still had to do homework, and I'm like, what is this? And then
Yeah, and it's hard because school starts at
7:30.
7:25, 7:30, and we get home at on average 3:15. People who ride the bus, and we're getting to the age where we work and we have homework, and all that piles up. We don't get to bed until like 10ish, maybe.
Or that's
later.
early.
But that's what they think. I go to bed 12 on school nights and wake up at 6. And doctors, pediatricians recommend 8 hours minimum of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And
I don't know
one is getting that.
No.
No one's getting it.
I know someone who gets 30 minutes of sleep and feels really happy that they got 30 minutes. So I'm
That's
like,
horrible.
That's
and
terrifying.
They're living off of coffee right now, and I'm like hoping they've gotten plenty of sleep so far. But
Yeah, same. But
Yeah.
it is so tough. Like, to just find time to sleep.
Yes.
that's what school's for. No, I'm kidding. Don't do that. But
Yeah. Mal.
Oh, is that
um,
yours? Or did you have something else?
Or
I guess if there's a little bit of backstory to it, is my whole like family, not my whole family, but like on my mom's side of the family and a little bit on my dad's, they've had like depression, anxiety issues and stuff like that. And when you hear people talk about that, I feel like people say it's all mental. Well, it's not entirely mental, where actually, I mean, some of it is mental. Actually, I read this down somewhere, but there's oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. All right, there's this thing called neuroplasticity. I think I said that right, but with the cliche of positive thinking or whatever, it actually fires neurons in your brain to reroute your thinking for positive thinking.
Talk about this all the time.
And I think that people are like, oh, no, you're stuck in your ways about that. And that some of it is positive thinking, but some of it's also just like, they're just struggling. And it doesn't help of how busy we are. Like you guys said, there's so much scheduling that you've got to fit in for people who work and then do like musical, volleyball, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like definitely that's a big component when it comes to mental health when we're talking about that.
it's a chemical reaction in your brain.
Yeah.
Like, so that's what's frustrating when someone says, oh, it's going to get better.
You're
If you
just having
think
a bad
positive. Yes, thinking positive helps, but some people that isn't enough.
But it is a literal chemical imbalance in your
Right.
brain.
Yeah. It's not just
Exactly.
I woke up on the wrong side of the bed.
Right.
It's literal. It's way deeper than that.
Mhm.
Oh, I've had like my family, a lot of people in it have had like mental health, different things, but we don't talk about it like a lot. But 8th grade was really tough for me. With like depression, I guess, but then I haven't really dealt with that since 8th grade because I got help and I got a lot better, and so now I'm doing good. Yeah.
I'm trying to think. So, I've never had a super long drought of mental health issues. It comes and goes, but the beginning of freshman year, I really was struggling, not really feeling sad, but to like feel anything. Like, it was more like I didn't care, like whatever, I'll go to school, do this, do that. I don't really care. No one else cares. And it's a struggle because no one talks about that part of mental health. It's not feeling anything. It's always
Depression.
It's always I feel sad all the time, or I'm always up and down. It's weird when you don't know how you feel, because it's like blank. and it's hard, but luckily I overcame it with some help, and I really want people to understand, like, and more people to talk about that, because before I did research,
Yeah.
I was in shock that, like, I'd never heard about not feeling anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I really want people to know that you're not alone. Like, that I wish at the time, the first beginning months, I knew that, because it would have been so much help to know I could talk to someone about this. There's other people to relate to. So I feel like that's really, really important.
I think going to that not feeling anything, I feel like that goes back to when people say, I mean, if you're a teenager and have not heard anybody say, I'm dead inside.
Oh my God.
Seriously, if you have not heard that, get your head out of the rocks and wake up, people.
Think back, you've definitely heard it
Somewhere, but
Yeah.
people make comments like that all the I'm gonna kill myself.
Yeah.
I feel dead
yeah.
inside.
what do you want for Christmas? A will to live. Like,
Yeah.
what? I've heard that, but
Yeah.
it's just that goes back to not feeling anything, because I feel like people say that and they don't realize the weight of what words have, and it's just like people forget how much words take, because you write it, your name's a word, you write down reports and stuff, and that's just
The whole sticks
whatever.
and stone thing is a lie.
Yeah.
Like, birds hurt. They do.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, it's not like you're getting punched in the face, but you're getting a beating.
punched in the
Right.
heart right there.
Right.
Yes.
Shot through the heart. Sorry. But I feel like that is something too where people are like, well, I'm not depressed. I don't have anxiety, so I'm not facing mental health. But if you don't deal with the fact that you feel like, well, not everybody's suicidal. And like, because when we're learning about that in school, they're like, oh, if you have these symptoms, well, sometimes it's not like a disease where I can go get cured at the doctor. It's like
Right.
something where I feel like people are concerned about that, where they're like, the stigma about it, around it. Like, oh man, I don't have all of these symptoms. I don't have depression, but you don't have to have depression to have mental health issues. You don't
Yeah,
have to have
exactly.
anxiety all the time to have mental health issues. I am a very high anxiety person. I have OCD, and it's not something I advertise all the time. And some people are like, oh, really? You don't seem like you have mental health issues.
But that doesn't mean that it's not there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just because some people are better at hiding it than others. I feel like that is something, too, where...
Which is sad that people hide it. But, yeah.
Especially in Lee Summit, I feel like people feel like they get, not even if it's just by their parents or teachers, or just Lee Summit in general gives you a rep where you feel like you have to be ready for the next step, ready for like perfect all the time. And if I'm facing something that it's not great, and that people don't realize it's okay to not be okay, it's kind of going back to what we're saying, but it's okay to ask for help when you're facing these kind of issues about it. Like, even if you don't go to a therapist, talk to a friend. And I mean, sometimes that's the best thing for you, but don't overload your friend if you feel like you're facing those really severe stuff.
Right.
Because that can be overloading to them too. But that's a whole different kind of, that's the thing. It's like nothing really talked about in mental health. Like that's where the drugs and alcohol kind of go into it too, I feel like. Sorry, I feel like I'm talking a lot, but I'll kind of wrap up this thought. But I went to the Summit Tech thing earlier, like the end of the school year, where they had their kind of youth advisory board speak up about it. I forget where it was. Yeah, it was like where they had the college thing too, and I forget what that was called, but somebody out there knows what I'm talking about. If not, I'm sorry, but I cannot think of the name right now. But when they went, they're like, okay, adults, teachers, and even a few students were there, because I'm part of a different youth advisory board, so I'm like, yeah, let's see where we're kind of crossing paths and stuff like that. But what I noticed is all of the students, not one of them, like they were talking about diversity issues and like how teachers don't get paid enough, but none of them brought up the fact that people are vaping like crazy in our school and that people are depressed. And I'm like, guys, that's like one of the biggest issues. And I feel like people are trying to hide the fact because, it's not okay. I feel like, and I'm not trashing them. You guys are doing great work, but that is something that needs to be considered. Is they didn't bring that up once. I heard the word vape once, and mental health got brought up for like 15 seconds. And that is an issue I feel like that I'm glad we're addressing today, because I feel like it's not addressed enough, especially in Lee Summit schools, or not even Lee Summit, but just like Kansas City area. So, yeah.
I think whenever, like, we talk about mental health, it can get really, like, uncomfortable. But I feel like if it's uncomfortable, that means it needs to be talked about more.
Yeah.
And just, like, the fact that if you're talking about it with somebody and you are feeling, like, ashamed or, like, anything like that, that just means it needs to be brought up more. And it needs to be, like, more accepted to talk about, I guess. Because that will help, like, a lot of people. Because I remember I did not want to mention it to anybody because I was so embarrassed that I, like, just hid it for a really long time. And that just, like, made it worse. And then... you know, I got better and everything, but it would have been easier for me to, like, get better quicker if I would have, like, not been embarrassed to talk about it.
Yeah, and I think people don't understand how many people our age have I think it was 20% of all teens.
I thought it was like 2 out of 3 have some mental health issue, like not
Yeah.
necessarily depression or anything, but
20% have depression or anxiety issues severely. 20%. And then 2 out of 3 say that they suffer from
some like
anxiety, depression, or another, like, mental, like, health issue, which is crazy to think about because there's literally 4 of us in this room. Like,
3 of us.
Yeah.
If the statistic adds up, that means at least 3 of us have some sort of issue or another, and I'm not like.
But that's crazy to think about, that we're walking around school and we know people, right? But I can walk past a girl who I know tried to end her life, and the person next to me doesn't know that. You really honestly just don't know what's happening in other people's lives. And that's sad, scary, sometimes good. Not everyone wants their stuff to be out in public, but like, I just wish everyone would talk more about the fact that it's an issue. I think it's really an issue how many of us are suffering and just are suffering in silence.
Right.
I feel like that goes back to the thing about emotion and how people feel like they don't feel anything. And I feel there's not a huge source. Like, I don't think I could point anything, like, at one specific reason why we're all, like, not feeling anything. But what I think, too, is when we actually give each other, going back to that technology conversation, is actually if we give each other a chance. The cool thing about people is that we all have the guts to be vulnerable with one of each other and to walk through, like, pain and mental health issues together. And we got people, so I don't know what I was going to say with that, but if we have the strength to do that, just people don't give themselves the opportunity to feel things. And I feel like that goes back to, like, it's not saying you're weak if you don't face up to stuff, because, you know, sometimes you need to step back, look at things, go, oh, I know my brother, kind of like an analogy, he knew he couldn't see when he was in kindergarten, and he didn't get glasses until 2nd grade, but that's because he memorized the wall of, like, the letters that they read, so because he didn't want to wear glasses because he thought that'd make him look weird. And so kind of like that, where we all kind of memorize the wall of what we're supposed to say, what we're supposed to feel, but it's okay to say, hey, you know, I need glasses or whatever that, like, I need help, kind of, like, glasses help. And sometimes people need to just rely on another person as their glasses, kind of. I don't know if that worked, but I don't know.
No, that was an amazing analogy. Like, it makes complete sense.
Okay, well, I'm going to kind of segue into another topic, or not, but causes of anxiety and mental issues. I had a lot of trouble with thinking I was kind of body image, I'm going to say.
We all said
yeah.
Get that one.
So, like, it was a problem because I didn't eat. I decided, maybe losing weight might be it would be best to lose weight by not eating, so I just didn't eat much. So like, and that was not good. Like, I mean, today I'm much better. I had a Pop-Tart and brownies this morning.
Nice. Perfect breakfast.
But like, people think that, body image is everything, and it's really not. It's what's inside of you which really matters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
like eating disorders in general are like so left out of the conversation.
Oh,
I
yeah.
feel
Yeah.
like because whenever you think of like mental health, you always like immediately go to
Depression,
like anxiety
anxiety.
and depression. And I feel like eating disorders never get talked about, and like the body image never really kind of gets thrown in there. So I think that especially needs to be like spoken about a lot more.
Yeah, because all that we hear about eating disorders, like, it's
They're bad.
anorexia.
Mhm.
I always hear anorexia, but you
Mhm.
don't talk about purging,
Bulimia.
Yeah.
bulimia, yeah, which are all serious.
Yeah.
Like, it's very, very,
Fatal.
it is.
Mm-hmm.
And also the media, like, pushing dietary pills and corsets to get your waist tiny.
Mm-hmm.
All these things just making everyone feel terrible
Right.
because they can't afford it. They're ashamed to get them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just crazy.
Even like Instagram and social media, you can't escape that because when you're
No.
just scrolling through, all you're seeing is people's perfect pictures. Because who's
Yeah.
gonna go on social media and be like, "Ugh, my life is terrible. Here's me looking like trash."
Right.
Nobody does
It's-
that.
No,
but
we have
whatever-
Facetune and filters.
Yeah, what everybody always says is like Instagram is like the highlight reel of your life. Like
Yeah.
it's no way like your real life. Everybody puts up
Like,
like,
you don't
a
see the
fake
lows.
front on social
Nobody.
media.
I wonder how do you guys think our society would change if somebody went on social media and you're like, you know what? I'm wearing sweatpants today. I look like trash. I feel miserable today. I'm throwing up. I'm sick. But this is me. This is the real me. I'm right here. Do you think that would change something, or you think they just get hate because we're not used to that kind of thing?
Definitely both, I think.
Yeah. Like, there's definitely people, like, kind of celebrity-wise who do that, who are like, I'm famous, I don't care what you think, I love myself, and they'll
Mhm.
post whatever they want.
But like teenagers,
But teenagers
would
if-
never.
Yeah, if I posted a picture in what I wore last night to sleep, probably, like, people would be like,
What is going on?
what is going on? Like, you just posted pictures of your concert at Khalid whenever you were in a nice outfit. What are you doing now?
Yeah.
You know? And I would do it, honestly, because I don't care. But it's rough knowing I would be scared of what people would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I hate talking about like off of social media. I hate how everybody is worried about followers, likes, and all that stuff. Like that adds on to like already feeling horrible about the way that you like look, then adding on like the amount of followers or likes or whatever. It's just so stupid, and
Yeah.
I hate it.
Dude, what's it gonna do you in the long run? Yay,
Exactly.
you got a like on a picture that you posted of your perfect life, but you know what? Everybody just scrolls through and likes anymore. That it doesn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people think it gives your life more purpose if you have more followers. I just don't get it.
No.
And that can really wear down on a person who, like, just, I don't know. Social media just is interesting.
I saw this thing that Instagram was gonna like stop showing the number of likes to like everybody else other than the person that posted it, and I think that'd be really
Amazing.
beneficial.
Yeah.
The only thing I like liking is the world
What-
record egg posts.
egg.
Like, that, like, stuff like that is funny.
They're trying to do a world record, Alexi.
I saw that.
I gave it a
Seriously?
like. I gave it a like
I gave it
because
a like, too.
he needs to beat the egg.
He needs to beat the
He
egg.
does. He deserves it.
Stranger Things 3, shout out. But
Yeah. Finish it.
sorry, cherry Slurpees. That's we need to spread that out. And now I forgot what I was gonna say about social media. Something.
Sorry, I really had to just bring that up.
You know, the egg got me off track. Somebody was texting me about that egg, sending me like a filter of them with an egg head. I'm like, why? But
Something that you said earlier, actually, you said like something along the lines of people can think it's like weak to own up to like you feeling like anxiety or depression or whatever. But that's one of like the hardest things that you can do is like own up and being like, yeah, I struggle with this.
Yeah.
And so don't like feel like you're so strong if you can do that.
Yeah.
So,
You're brave.
yeah.
Yeah.
Today's episode of Lee Summit Town Hall has been brought to the people by FirstStepForHelp.com.
First Step for Help is a free service to meet the behavioral health needs of this community. We focus on the state of Missouri, but they extend their reach across state lines to include the entire metropolitan area. They're highly trained, master's level clinicians, accept and handle calls from anyone who needs help. Multilingual, always confidential these conversations are. FirstStepForHelp.com is the 24-hour mental health crisis helpline operated by ComCare, which is a not-for-profit behavioral health management organization that works in collaboration with community behavioral health centers and other providers to continually improve access to affordable, high-quality, and effective behavioral health services.
Their vision is a community where people are efficiently and effectively connected with high-quality behavioral health services, supporting wellness and productivity of all. You can visit ComCare at comcare1.org or firststepforhelp.com. And Jason, just one last thing. Look, this is for not only people who are in crisis themselves or thinking they need help, but if you've got a friend or a loved one you think is in need of help, hit this website. They can help you out. It's firststepforhelp.com.
At school with your friends. So, have you ever been in a situation where you know that a friend needs help, but you don't know what to do?
I don't know, because that's something where, like, I'm really bad about fessing up to my emotions sometimes. Like, I feel stuff. I'm like, everyone's like, how are you feeling today? I'm like, hungry. And I'm like, I don't really like to talk about my emotions. I try to be, like, happy all the time. But that's just because I feel like I'm surrounded by so many people who are down in the dumps all the time that I can't feel down with them. Otherwise, I'm, like, dragged into that kind of...
That mindset.
That mindset, yeah. And so usually I'm the one where people are like, hey, this is going on in my life. What should I do? And I feel like people forget that we're the same age sometimes. I get it. I'm tall. But that doesn't make me super wise either. I mean, I feel like sometimes I get told I'm more mature than my age group. And I'm like, thanks. But I'm still a kid, too. So I can't know everything. I mean, sometimes you'll say a word, I'll be like, I'm going to go look that up on Urban Dictionary. So,
Yeah.
I don't feel like that's where a lot of people are stuck into. You're either the friend that's not always down in the dumps, but the one that needs help, and then there's always that person who's like, gives the help, but doesn't get help for themselves, and I feel like that's the kind of two categories that need addressed when talking about mental health, because... it's real easy to talk about the person who needs the help and needs the therapy for the depression, the bipolar, the eating disorder, but no one really likes to talk about the person who helps the other people but doesn't get help for themselves. And I know that's probably the minority in that kind of department.
but it's still there.
It's still there enough
Yeah.
where it needs kind of addressed. Like,
You need to, like, put yourself first, but you need to be able to help other people, too. But if, like, you know that what this person is telling you is going to have an effect on you, or if helping them is going to affect you negatively, help them get help.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like
that's...
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Okay. I feel like that's kind of what happened to me, because whenever I was feeling not so good, like, a couple years ago, I'd always be, like, talking to my friends, like, what's going on in your life, so I could focus on, like, that instead of what I needed to do for myself. Because
Yeah.
I didn't want to, like...
I did the same
Own up.
thing, kind of. Like, in 8th grade, I was so focused on helping my friends through their issues. Like, my best friend had gotten a boyfriend, and I'm like, you go, girl. Like, I talked to my other friend who's like, I never get enough sleep. And I'm like, oh, you need to get some sleep. But I had actually so focused on their like relationships and what's going on in their lives. I like finally told my mom I was getting like picked on and stuff. She's like, yeah, you're getting bullied. I'm like, what? Seriously? I just thought they were like playing around. And then I went to counselor. I'm like, yeah, no, you've been bullied for like months. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was so focused on what everyone else was doing. And I didn't even realize, like, I mean, I knew people were being mean. I'd actually gotten shoved into a locker. No joke. But I didn't take the time to realize what was wrong with myself and like what was going on in my life. Like that, like I would get name called or stuff, and I'm like, oh, they're just playing around. And then when I talked to a counselor, I actually broke down and I was like, I didn't even realize that I was getting bullied for that long. And I mean, it bugged me, but I didn't really take the time to like process that it was bugging me. And that goes back to the not feeling anything. And I feel like that person who does help does have issues, and I feel like whoever is helping, they're helping, forgets that sometimes, that they're people and they feel stuff too. And that we can't all be therapist kind of role for people. Sometimes you can like help people like that, but they aren't therapists where they can just hide all their emotion like that. They can pull from their experiences and stuff to help other people, and that's what I feel like life is about, pulling from your own mistakes and life experiences to help others. But it's something we forget about too, is that we can't be therapists that just cold face. I'm not saying therapists are cold, no offense, Carrie, but they're not cold. They're there to help you, and if you need help, go talk to somebody like a therapist capacity if you're comfortable with that, because that's a strength in yourself. But that's something too when you're talking about whoever needs the help, is that forgetting about that too.
Yeah.
Would you like to add anything onto that? I feel like we've been talking a lot, but
No.
there's nice to get a guy perspective
Yeah.
on the issue, because
Yeah.
that's something in itself too, is guys don't talk about their feels. So
You guys
they
have-
don't.
Very true,
Yeah.
actually. Well, for me personally, I'm mostly friends with girls, and that's fine. That's
Easier.
we're great.
Sometimes.
yeah,
Yeah,
most
we
of the time
are.
they're easy. Most of the time, I'm saying. But I'm usually the go-to guy when they need to talk about something, get something off their mind, and that's great and all. But you know, sometimes you feel like you're always the one listening. You know, you're never the one like, "Hey, I'm over here. My feelings count too." But so that's just for me. But I figured that out. I started talking about my feelings, and that's how I started fixing my eating problems. I started figuring it out, and that's good. So it's best just to talk to someone if you really need to. If you're feeling like you are getting forgotten almost, just find someone to talk to, and it helps a lot.
This is kind of random-ish, but there's this GIF that I've seen, and it says, "I'm a mess, but I'm fine." And I feel like with mental health, that's kind of what it become. Where it used to be like, if you've seen those older TV shows where they're like, if you're dealing with someone, go to a person like that. And now it's like, I've been to Disney Channel, and they're like, oh, I just eat you up. Well, if I ate. And I'm like, I feel like I've seen that on a Disney show. I forget which one it was, but that's kind of where I feel like your generation is at. We're all like, I'm a mess, but I'm fine. And it's okay to not be fine in that regard.
It's an unhealthy setting to grow up in.
Yeah. You can be a mess. I'm a hot mess. Like, I got out of bed at 11 a.m. and I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing today? And I had to like this whole toboggle. But, you know, sometimes you just got to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm a beautiful hot mess, or handsome, whatever you prefer. Sorry, but and just say, you know what, whatever comes, I'm going to deal with it. But that's not always the case either.
I think another thing that's tough is self-acceptance,
Oh yeah.
especially like, body image. We all know that. We're teenagers.
Yeah.
We're weird. We're growing.
Yeah.
We're all beautiful still.
Yeah.
Handsome.
Thank you.
And I think some people forget, like, people hate their personalities or
Yeah.
hate the things they do or think that they're weird because they like doing certain things. And that's so saddening to me because I'm weird sometimes. Mallory's laughing.
We all are.
We're all. I don't even like using the word weird.
If
I
you're
like,
not weird, you are
Quirky.
weird. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
literally.
I know,
Quirky.
this all sounds cliche,
Special.
but cliche things are only cliche because
they're right.
they're right, and so many people have said it before. But being weird is okay, and I wish people would understand that.
Yeah.
And just being yourself, like LGBTQ kids, 65% of kids under the age of, I think of 16, not even 18, who identify as LGBTQ experience mental disorders more. Like, because it's so much harder to accept who you are.
Right.
Because you have some people who really are supportive and are like, be yourself, but you also have maybe some people who you look up to or you don't want to let down.
Yeah.
And it's hard to accept that.
Mm-hmm.
But I really hope that in the future, you know, it would be okay. Like, you know, you could be 16 and be like, oh yeah, I'm gay, and your friends would be like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, what about it?
Yeah.
And I feel like once we get over barriers like that, because that's just the same thing to me. Like if someone was like, I'm diagnosed with depression.
Yeah.
Stigmas around everything. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not saying that being gay and depressed are the same thing. That's not what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It's just that saying how you feel or being who you are, there shouldn't be any, like, negative, like, side effect, like, negative backlash to that.
Right.
It should just be socially accepted and just be okay.
Right.
Hate to be like the negative nanny, but I feel like in that regard, everyone's gonna disagree on it. But I feel like you can still disagree, but still support them at the same time. Like pineapple on pizza. There are plenty of people who can hate on that. I like pineapple on pizza. Don't at me, but or sue me or whatever. But I feel like in that you can say, you know what? I like pineapple on pizza. You don't. I'm not going to start hating you for it. And I know that's not the same thing, but you can still support someone and not agree with them on that. Like, it's their opinions, I feel like, especially now when everybody's got to say everything they feel and all their opinions on whatever. Pineapple on pizza, whatever. I can't think of anything else right now. I'm hungry, but I have popcorn, so it's fine. But we can agree or disagree, but still support one another, I feel like, because you don't always have to drag somebody down if you disagree. And I feel like if you disagree, everyone thinks negatively about that. You don't have to think negative when it comes to issues like that. Even if it's like, you're still two paths leading to the same place. So if you both disagree on one issue over, I don't know, I can't metaphor right now. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Have to
Trying
just
to
look
make-
out the
try
window.
not to make eye contact. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I have some friends that are in the LGBT community, and I'm totally fine with that. Just go do your own thing, you know? I'm not gonna stop you or, like, be the one to be, like...
Pass on judgment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna... It's like, people are people.
Right.
We like people, and that's fine, you know? So, yeah.
I get that. Like,
I
you know,
agree.
no one's hurting anyone.
Mhm.
That's one of I grew up in a household where it was accepted. My parents were always like, oh, these people, because my parents had friends who were lesbian or gay,
Mhm.
and I'd always grown up around it. I never thought twice of it. And then I got into middle school and someone said something negative about gay marriage being legalized the year before. And I went, I never even thought about that, which is so crazy because we live in Missouri. It's like you have crazy, like, different opinions. And so it's interesting whenever I got into middle school being around people who didn't find it socially acceptable, and I just never given it a second thought.
Yeah.
And then I got sad about it because I was like, well, it's kind of sad that people don't like my friends my parents' friends.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember in middle school, that was a time when a lot of people were finding out who they were, and I know a lot of people who came out at the time, and I knew them before they came out to me, and they were so sad because they didn't want to talk about it, and it was just really upsetting to see them sad because I couldn't do anything. I was like, "What's wrong?" They're like, "Well, I don't want to talk about it."
Right.
And
That's
the worst.
That's really hard whenever you feel like you have something that you want to talk about, but you feel like you can't.
Yeah.
And then that's really you feel really alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the worst.
That's, I think, too, people forget to listen to one another. And this is going to sound cheesy, but if you put both of your ears together, that makes a heart shape, and your ear actually leads to your heart. So listening to people actually leads to your heart. So I feel like that's kind of cheesy, but it's something to
that was
think about.
scientific. What the heck?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, but it's cheesy, but if you remember to listen to people, you actually impact them more than you think. And I'm a romantic, sue me, but I like rom-coms, whatever.
Same.
Aw.
I do too.
That's fun. No, that's like a really good. It's a two-way street. It's just like how people say in a relationship, you give and you take. It's a two.
Yeah.
It should be like that when you're talking to other people, because I've had friends. We both had issues and we talk it out. But sometimes I felt like I was talking too much, and they just didn't talk back to me as much as they wanted to.
Like the one-way-sided conversation.
Yeah. And that made me upset, and I took a step back, and I was like, talk about you. What can I do? And that helped that person. And that made me really happy because, yeah, I was glad I was getting it out, what was going on with me. But I never wanted to look across again and see that they were upset too.
Mm-hmm. I feel like it's kind of cool. Like, stuff like that is actually being addressed on TV nowadays. Like,
Yeah.
actually saw a situation that happened just like that on TV where they thought the person, they had actually come out to, like, their sister or something. And she was upset about it. And she's like, oh my gosh, did I upset you that I am lesbian? And she's like, no, I'm not upset about that. I'm disappointed in myself that I didn't figure it out sooner because I didn't take the time to actually listen to you. And it was always about me, and I'm so sorry I didn't make it feel like you could come out to me and deal with that issue, and we're going to tackle it together. I felt like that was kind of cool for even, like, teens. It was a CW show, so, I mean, of course it's going to be kind of cheesy, but it was kind of cool to see that even though she was worried that she wasn't going to get accepted, she really just was like, yeah, it's fine, but I'm more sad that I didn't figure it out because I didn't take the time to listen to you. I feel like that was kind of cool, and that's what it reminded me of a little bit, is that we can see that situations like that with mental health, even on TV.
Mm-hmm. There's more representation.
Yeah, even of just issues of, like, anger, depression, or whatever. Like, it may not be, like, a whole character point like it could be with actual people, but they do, like, a little arc or something where they deal with stuff that we face, and even if they're, like, superheroes or something like that, like I watch The Flash and Supergirl, so they tackle those issues like that, and I find it cool because people look up to superheroes or, like, famous people, and when they're, like, supporting that kind of issues like that, it's like, oh wow, that kind of puts you down to a more human level, because at the end of the day we all are just people, and that's just characters that we can admire for all their cool abilities and stuff, but at the end of the day they kind of share the same belief system as you, or, like, maybe not identical, but enough where you can respect them for it and then relate to that.
Yeah. I feel like it's harder to do it for Disney, because it's how do you talk about anorexia, like, to little children?
Have you seen Andy Mack?
Yeah, I freaking love that show just because of how
open.
Yeah, they're open, honest, they're tackling stigmas. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But, like, whenever I was a kid, I wish I had that.
Yeah.
Like, I grew up watching.
Good Luck Charlie did, kind of. That was
Oh yeah, Good Luck Charlie. That was my favorite show. But iCarly, like, you know, they didn't address anything. It was a silly show.
Hannah Montana did the same thing, but yeah.
Yeah, like, it's just hard, you know, it's hard to embed it in someone at a young age to, like, give them self-confidence, kind of.
Yeah.
Luckily, my family did really hone on me. They're like, no, you're beautiful. Stop
Yeah.
it. Like, and just allowed me to be self-accepting and accepting of other people and loving no matter what.
Yeah.
And so I'm thankful for that, but I know that not everyone comes from that.
Yeah.
And so that's why, you know, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, kind of. But it's really easy nowadays to do research and realize, and, you know, it's just, I don't know. Technology's amazing. I'm sorry, but it sucks. But we have new TV shows tackling things. That makes me happy because my cousins are going to grow up watching those.
Mm-hmm.
They're 2, 3, and 5. So, oh, I was too far away. But they're 2, 3, and 5, and they're going to be getting more of an education than me. And I'm disappointed I didn't get that.
Yeah.
But knowing that they're going to benefit from this is really just makes me happy.
I feel like, too, that's part of advancing forward is change. And if we don't change what's wrong, then there's not a point in advancing at all. Like, kind of like the iPhone. If we go back to, like, the iPhone 5 to compare to the iPhone X, there's so much more and different things you can do on that. But that's because they take the time to learn it and adjust and change. And I feel like that's kind of what's going on right now. And it's hard to see because it makes us feel old. Like, seeing Toy Story 4, and I'm like, oh, man, I saw Toy
my
Story
God.
2. Or all those new movies or whatever. But it's kind of part of advancing as a society is just change like that. And teaching your 5, 3, and 2-year-old sibling, I mean, what we got taught is the ABCs on Sesame Street or whatever. But now they're getting taught, like, the same thing and more, kind of.
Yeah.
And that's the only way we can really advance is if we teach more. And it's sad for us because, you know, we get missed out on stuff. But if you go back to, like, the 50s or whatever, and they're like, women are just slaves, kind of, then, no offense, Hudson. Don't mean to offend the minority here. But that if you have that issue that you can't talk about, like, even mental health 50 years ago is way different than the issues
Right.
now. Because then they were just, you know, serve dinner, clean up. And that is, if you look back on that, I'm sure people then would be like, oh my gosh, I paid good money. I pay my dime or whatever it costs to get a house. I don't know. I need to look that up. But
Yeah.
just to be open about what they were feeling like we can do now, I feel like that's kind of...
We're constantly advancing. I don't even think it's been 100 years since women have had the right to vote.
It like was just the 100th year
Yeah.
anniversary.
Like, has it?
It was
I'm Googling it.
19.
But that's insane because now we have women running for president
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hillary
within that time frame.
Yeah.
So,
I think it was just
It
100
was
years.
1972. Oh, no.
No.
Equal Rights Amendment, women's...
I was
Sorry.
like, wait.
It's 1923.
That's what I thought. So
My
yeah,
bad.
so it's about
less
to
than,
be.
so less than 100 years ago we weren't allowed to vote.
Yeah.
Well, we still can't vote. We're not 18, but
Right?
That's probably
But
for the
once we
better.
turn 18
The next voters also ate Tide Pods, so...
Oh,
my
Fee-
gosh. I do not want to think about that.
yeah. So I'm looking forward to the future because just since I've been like 6 years old, so much has already changed, and I feel like there's been a lot of stigmas that have been tackled, and everyone has been a little bit more open and honest. Not always, but a little bit more, and that it gives me hope that if I ever have kids, not saying I will, but if I ever have kids, that they'll be able to grow up knowing that it's okay to say that you're having an issue. It's okay to talk about it. And so that does, again, make me really happy.
I feel like that also puts on the pressure on us that I know we talked about in the day in the life is that we are partially responsible for that change. Because if we don't do it, nobody's going to do it. And I know I actually saw a shirt for like a 5-year-old boy was wearing it, and it said Future Voter of America. And I'm like,
That's cute.
yeah, it was super cute. But that made me more realize the fact that, yes, there are some stupid people voting right now. No offense, people, but you're great most of the time. But if we don't change anything, nothing's going to change. And I know that is a big pressure put on us by, like, famous people. Like, why didn't you do anything? But maybe it's because the same things weren't available to them at the time. Like 20 years ago, there was not social media where they could just be like, hashtag Black Lives Matter, or like all the rainbows or whatever.
And some of the things were considered crazy.
Yeah.
Like in the 70s, whenever people were pushing for gay rights, like, oh, you had to be crazy to support that.
Mm-hmm.
But nowadays, it's like kind of, okay.
Yeah.
Like even with technology, the same amount of technology in our phone was enough to make the first spaceship fly to the moon, which is crazy because we don't think about that. Like, oh, I just text my friends good morning, but 80 years ago, you had to get a wired cord from your car or whatever and be like, hey, like if you see that on Stranger Things, you're like, oh my
The
gosh,
rotary phone.
that's so old, but
I was actually just about to say something about Stranger Things, but I stopped myself before spoilers came out.
Good.
If you know, you know.
Right.
I do have, like, one more thing to add,
Yes.
and it's compliments. Honestly, I have this relationship with one of my better friends, and we'll just have, like, a daily pick-me-up, and they will text me, and they'll be like, hey, guess what? What? I love and appreciate you. And then, like, thank you.
so sweet.
That's so cute.
And I don't know, that really helps a lot. Like, I would go through the day feeling very appreciated, you know? It feels
Yeah.
good to know that you are loved, and everyone is. Like, you're loved.
Mm-hmm.
You are loved,
You
you
are.
know? So, maybe get something going with that with one of your friends. It's great, you know? So, yeah.
Okay, what we talked about this episode, the stigma around mental health, and how we need to talk about it more and just need to be more open and accepting. Whenever people are coming to you with issues, make sure you listen, and also you can go to them and they'll listen, and just be supportive. And yeah.
I want to take a moment to talk a little bit about one of our partner podcasts on the Fredcast Network. It is the Shred podcast. Shred has been a sponsor of this program for a while, and they have a pretty special show of their own that they're working on, Jason. This is all about living a healthy lifestyle, hosted by Ryan Waters, owner of the Shred Gym here in Lee Summit, and Aaron Simpson, who is also a gym owner himself.
Yep. Recent episodes are talks about supplements, celebrating success stories. They did a mailbag, so they took questions and got that, and they really did harp on the importance of a healthy routine, which is something I think both you and I, Nick, could probably use a little work on.
It's true. And, you know, sometimes the host, Ryan Waters, he gets a little preachy. He likes to make sure that people are doing their workouts correctly. So if you want to know how you're supposed to be lifting weights, the form, this is the one to listen to. So
Bend at the back, not at the knees, right?
Right.
Okay, absolutely correct.
Look,
Yes, nailed
but
it.
He is large and
Uh-huh.
very, very muscular.
I know,
He might
but
hurt you.
He's also far away from me.
He's also far away from you right now. So if you are ready to make that change and ready to live a more healthy lifestyle, check out the Shred podcast on any of your favorite podcast apps. You have been listening to Lee Summit Town Hall, a Link to Lee Summit podcast with hosts Nick Parker and Jason Norberry. A proud member of the Fredcast Network, you can subscribe to this podcast on most of your favorite podcast apps and catch us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for all the news, analysis, and conversations on the Lee Summit community. Connect with us on Facebook at Link to Lee Summit or on Twitter at LS Town Hall.